Cool. Thanks, Daniel, for the intro. Hey, everyone. Hopefully you can see my screen. It should be
correct.
The title of my PowerPoint slide. So today in the first session of Automation Saturday, and I've already screwed up already. I already have the hashtag of automation instead of automate Saturday. So make sure you get that
Wow.
right. So my bad. I will be showing you how you can retrieve records from a many-to-many relationship from both CDS connectors. So before we kick off, I just want to make sure that you're all joining the conversation today on this beautiful Saturday on Twitter and on LinkedIn. If you want to tag me, that's fine. You can do so by using @Benitez here. And then on LinkedIn, it's just my first name and last name. And yes, it should be hashtag automate Saturday, not automation. Me, I work for a Microsoft partner called Theta in New Zealand. I did used to live in Melbourne in Australia for 6.5 years, but since then I've moved back home to New Zealand. So my background is in Dynamics 365 Power Apps Portals. So back in the day, it used to be called ADX Studio Portals, but then it was acquired by Microsoft. And so it's what we know today as Power Apps Portals and Power Automate. So I've been in the IT industry for over 10 years now. I started out in sales and then made my way into the delivery side of IT industry in terms of working for a Microsoft partner. And for those of you who don't know, I have a YouTube series called WTF, What the Flow, where I help people understand how to create flows in Power Automate specifically for CDS or Dynamics 365. For those of you who are tuning in from around the world today, Dynamics 365 in terms of workflows that we have been used to is the classic workflows. So the WTF series is designed to help you transition from classic workflows to flows in Power Automate. For the agenda today, I will talk about what is a many-to-many relationship. Then I'm going to talk about the use case that you are going to see in today's demo. And then I'm going to explain the solution. And then I'm going to talk about the two CDS connectors available. Then we're going to jump straight into the demo, followed by some learning material that you can follow, and then we'll have time for questions, as Daniel said. So what is a many-to-many relationship? It's a record that can have many associations with another record. So an everyday example that I thought of that might be relatable to everyone is in terms of books in a library. So a book can be associated to a member of the library, and that member can also have many books checked out. So in the Common Data Service and in Dynamics 365, there are many-to-many relationships that exist already out of the box, as well as you can create custom many-to-many relationships between one entity to another. And so in Flow, there is a particular method that you can apply if you want to query many-to-many relationships. So that's what I'll be going through today. For the use case, it will be in the context of a sales product manager. So here's something that I've put together so that you all can follow along, because one of the things that we have to do as consultants is understand what the customer is after, and then being able to, make it work within the Power Platform or in Dynamics 365. So the use case that I will go through with you today is, as a sales product manager, I want to create a coupon for our customers based on certain criteria so that my customers can purchase more products from us this month. So the solution. So in the Common Data Service as well as Dynamics 365, if you have the Sales Hub app, I believe, there's an entity called Contact and there's an entity called Marketing List. So out of the box, this is what we call a many-to-many relationship. A contact can be associated to many marketing lists, and a marketing list can be associated to many contacts. And what I will do is show you how you can create a flow in Power Automate using either connectors for CDS, and then I'm going to show you how the sales product manager is going to run a flow from the marketing list to generate coupons. So this is for the standard CDS connector. So one of the query techniques that I will be showing you today is what we call Fetch XML. For those of you who are familiar with Dynamics 365, this will already be familiar to you. So Fetch XML is a type of query language that exists in Dynamics 365, which is also made available in the Common Data Service. And basically, you can build certain criteria around what type of data you want to retrieve. And you can also specify the columns that you want. And the other nice thing about Fetch XML is you can go down through different relationships based on that entity. So this is what I'm going to be going through, and it will make sense when I do the demo. So make sure you stick right through to the end. So the two CDS connectors that are available today in Power Automate is the left-hand side is the Common Data Service Standard Connector, and then on the right-hand side is the Common Data Service Current Environment Connector. So the first one that I'll go through is the one on the left, which is a standard connector, and then I'm going to show you what's possible in the Current Environment Connector. Okay, let's get ready to demo. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I was waiting for a yeah. So what I'll do now is I'll jump to Power Automate and we'll start creating a flow. Okay, so I'm in Power Automate and we're going to build a flow from scratch. And the one that I'm going to select as a trigger is when a record is selected. And I'll select Create and we'll give it a name. With that. And one thing that I like to do is just number my triggers and actions in flow. So this will be when a marketing list record is selected. And because we're using the standard connector, the environment options will be default. And then the entity name that I'm going to reference is marketing lists. And what I'll do is provide some input. So I'm going to allow the sales product manager to give it a name. So let's say we'll call it coupon name. And what? Hang on, let's try that again. Input title is already being used in this step. Why is this not cooperating with me today?
Is there a name in your marketing list?
Well, it's allowing me to, hang on. Okay, well, like that. I think it's because I already have a backup flow just in case this flow doesn't work, so just bear with me. Okay, so I'm allowing the sales product manager to enter a name for the coupon, and then what I'll do is provide them with the ability to enter a valid from date and a valid to date, because with coupons, you know, there is an expiry date, so we need to make sure that the sales product manager can define that. So I'll have a valid from date, and then I'll have another one called valid to. Sorry, ignore the numbering. It's because I already have another flow in the background if this doesn't work. Okay, so the trigger was when a marketing list record is selected, and then we're allowing the sales product manager to enter three values. The first one is the name of the coupon, the second one is the valid from date, and then the third value is the valid to date. So the next action that we're going to perform is what we call an invoke an HTTP request action. So I'm just going to pause here and I'll explain this step. So what we need to do is we need to generate coupons for contacts that are associated to that marketing list. And because of that many-to-many relationship, we need to be able to query those contacts that are linked to that marketing list. And so what we need to do is use fetch.xml, but we also need to call the API. So the API that we can call that's available today is this one. So this is for the contact entity. And so this allows post, get, patch, and delete. And it's going to ask, well, what we need to provide is the organization URI. And then we're going to add on the fetch.xml query. So that's what we'll do next. So I'm just going to jump over to my instance, and I'm going to grab this URI so that we can use it in my flow. So we're going to add that invoke an HTTP request action. And I'm just going to rename this so I can number it. And the method that we're going to do is get, because we want to retrieve the list of contacts. And then I can paste that in there. So then the next bit of that value is this one. And then I'm just going to change this to 0.1 because that's the latest version that we should be using. So the next thing that we need to do is add on that fetch.xml. And the cool thing about the fetch.xml is that you can call it through a web API. So here's an example of the request. So this example is grabbing accounts, and it's also grabbing accounts based on this fetch.xml query. So it's already been defined. And so when you call that, it will then return a list of records. So in this scenario, it's calling the account entity, and then it's retrieving those account records. So how do we do that for grabbing contacts that are associated to a marketing list? In Dynamics 365 and in your model-driven app for your CDS, there is what we call Advanced Find, which can help you build that fetch.xml to get the list of contacts. So I'm going to use this marketing list, and in this marketing list, I have 3 contacts, right? So when we run our Advanced Find query, what we need to do is tell the query grab contacts. So in here is a list of entities that are available in my environment. And you can also select a view which has predefined columns. And what we're going to do is go down a related level to the marketing list. So for those of you who are new to Advanced Find, you can define your query through this click and select method. So if I select on this drop-down field, this will give me all the fields that are available for the contact entity. Now, if I scroll down, once we get past the Z area, it will show related entity records. So this will be in the form of many to one and many to many. So if we keep scrolling down, what we can see is an entity called marketing lists. So then the next thing that I can do is select name, or I can select marketing list, which will then allow me to select the marketing list that I want rather than typing it. Either way will work. It's entirely up to you, but I'm showing you how you can view all your existing marketing lists if you don't happen to know the name. So I'm going to select Ninja Cat as my marketing list and click add. And once I hit results, it will pull through all the contacts that are associated to my Ninja Cat marketing list, which is what we saw when I showed you the marketing record. So when we go back to the Advanced Find tab, there's a button up here called Download Fetch.xml. When I click on Download Fetch.xml, we will see the definition of that Fetch.xml, and it will also pull through all the attributes that have been defined in that view. So in that view that has these columns, and if we have a look down here, this reference to the link entity represents that marketing list. So this is what the fetch.xml query looks like underneath the hood that the Advanced Find is running on. And we can see in here that there's a reference to the marketing list name, and we can also see that there's a reference to the marketing list ID. So what we can do is copy all of this, and if we head back to our flow, what we need to do is add a question mark and type this in, fetch XML, and then the equals. So can you all see that? So what I've done is I've just added the question mark, typed in fetch XML equals, and now what I can do, sorry, I think that should be lowercase, is copy and paste. If it's going to allow me to, there we go. And if I were to run this right now, this would work. But what we want to allow the sales product manager to do is run this against any marketing list of their choice. And if I left these values in, this would only ever work for that marketing list that's called NinjaCat. But if they wanted to run it against another marketing list, and if we leave this as is, it's going to fail because that marketing list doesn't match these values. So then what we need to do is replace NinjaCat and use the dynamic value of of the name of the marketing list, which is this one. And then same principle applies here. We need to replace this with the ID of the marketing list. So this is based on our trigger. And so now when the sales product manager will run this flow, it will then call the name of the marketing list as well as the ID of the marketing list that they have selected. So I'm going to hit save for now, and then we're going to go to the next action, which is actually looping through all of those contexts so that we can create that coupon. Okay, so it looks like it's saved. So because there are more than one context that will be retrieved from this fetch XML query, we need to use what we call an apply to each action. And in here is where we will be able to loop through the contexts that have been retrieved. Okay, so the thing is, if I were to leave this as is, the body, it's not going to work. So what we have to do is add an additional string value to this. Oh, is someone going to say something? Okay, I'll continue. Unless someone did want to say something.
No, it's okay.
No? Okay. Sorry, I just paused there. And that's not the correct naming convention. So what I'll do is add just period and add this in because we want to loop through the value returned in the response, which I will show you. So now that we've defined that, sorry, my OCD here is kicking in. There we go. Better. We can then go ahead and create our coupon record. So what we need to do next is create a new coupon record. And it's pretty straightforward from here. So what I'm doing now is referencing that coupon record. And then we can fill in some details. So what I want to do in here is use the coupon name. And then we're going to go ahead and fill in the other details. So this is an auto-numbered field, so we won't populate this field, but then we can use the values from the input as well. So this is based on the input that I created earlier. Oh, valid 2, sorry, excuse me. And then the marketing list, which will be from And then the final one that we're going to select is contact. So if I were to select current item, that's technically not going to work because what we want to do is reference the contact ID that is returned in the fetch XML. So we actually want to grab this value in here. So what we need to do is use an expression where we can grab the contact ID from the item returned. I don't think I made sense about that. If John Liu is in here in the house, he could probably explain this better than I can. So what I'm doing in here is now I'm referencing my apply to each action. I'm going to reference that contact ID property, and then we are good to go.
Remember to put it in quotes. The item is in quotes.
This one.
Yeah.
My guardian angel, whoever that was. I can't see who's talking right now because obviously I'm presenting, but thank you. Was that Thomas?
Thomas, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you're right. Cool. So now we have created that flow. So just to recap, we are allowing the sales product manager to run it against a particular marketing list, and then we're using an invoke an HTTP request action where the method is get, and it's going to call this API. And within the API, we've inserted a fetch XML query that will return all contacts associated to that marketing list that we've selected. And then it's going to loop through all of those contacts and create the coupon for that contact. Okay, here we go. Let's refresh this record. And let's see if my flow is available. And it's not. Might take a few seconds. Okay, here we go. So that's the one we created. So what I would do is I will run this flow. So this is now me as the sales product manager, and it's going to prompt me to connect using my credentials. Oh, sorry. One more thing. I just need to make sure I use the right connection for this. Yes, I have. Did I exit out of there? I have another connection to the Graph API. So if I didn't select the right connection, it would have failed. Okay, so we are going to call this Faraday promo. And then we're going to enter a valid from date and a valid to date. So this is what the input looks like. I'm entering the name of the coupon. I'm entering the valid from and the valid to date. And now when I run the flow, my flow should now execute against the many-to-many relationship that we have defined through the fetch XML. So I'm hoping that this all works. And if not, oh, okay, phew, now I can relax. Let's open this up. Okay, so we can see that it has successfully gone through and that it has looped through those 3 contacts, which is awesome. So now when we go to our marketing list and we have a look at those coupons that were created, we can see that these are the 3 coupon records that we've created, and that there's a Saturday promo, there's been a coupon code that has been automatically generated from the auto numbering feature of the common data service, and it's got the valid from and the valid to dates. So the idea is that if the customer has like a portal, and if they are buying products from that portal, they can enter their coupon code. So that's what this scenario is for in terms of this use case. So the next one that I will show you is a lot more straightforward, which is the current environment connector. So I've already got a flow good to go, because the only difference is using the CDS list records action. So the trigger is essentially the same. The trigger is different. So this is where I need to explain. So just bear with me. In the current environment connector, as of today, the CDS list, when a record is selected, CDS action is not available. The triggers that we have available is when a record is created, updated, or deleted. So for the purpose of this session, what I did was I created some additional fields so that we could trigger my current environment connector flow. And so these are the fields that I've created. Essentially, they are the same inputs that you saw from the previous flow, but these are fields. And then when I update this field to yes, it will then trigger that flow. So if we head back to my flow in Power Automate, I've got my trigger when a marketing list record is updated, where the scope is organization, and the filtering attribute is that generate coupon field. So when that criteria has been met, it will go and trigger this flow in Power Automate. So then this is where I'm using the CDS list records action. And the cool thing in here is that it has the fetch XML query already provided. So in here is where I can actually do that copy and paste. So I don't have to use that invoke an HTTP request action, because the fetch XML query is part of the CDS list records action when you are using the CDS current environment connector. So that's the difference. This does not exist in the standard connector. This is only available in the current environment connector. And so I'm performing the same replacement where I'm dynamically referencing the name of the marketing list and the ID of the marketing list. And then for the apply to each, it is exactly the same. The only difference is when you are using the current environment connector and you're referencing lookup fields, you do have to wrap the dynamic content value against the plural name of the entity in brackets. Another Microsoft MVP in our community who has written a blog post on this is Sarah Lagerquist. So if you want more information around that, go and check it out. Okay, so what I will do, does anyone have questions before I actually show this demo and head back to my slides? Am I going too fast with this one?
Let me see. There is a question from David Moss around, is there a flow connector to Azure Key Vault for secrets? I believe that's already coming, or it's already there. I'll check that in a little bit. There was a question about the variables. Are they shared across flows?
The variables shared across flows. I'm not sure I follow.
So you used a variable before, or not?
Which I don't think I did.
Okay. So let me see. There was an earlier question. I didn't remember if you did that. Let me see. I believe that those are the questions for now. Environment variable it was. Okay.
Oh, right. Okay. So I see, I hear that. Okay,
Yeah.
so let me go back to this one.
Yeah.
So the question was around the environment variable, and I think it's because I referenced the organization directly. If you wanted to reference it dynamically, you do have to perform another CDS list records action. So, oh, actually, I don't actually know if it's available in the standard connector. Let's check.
He elaborated on it, Milan. He said he meant the variables defined at the start of the flow. So he means the extra settings you did and when the record is selected. So the extra inputs in there. Yeah. So
yeah,
they are only for the flow itself.
Yeah, so it would be for the flow, but available to other flows in that same environment. So you see how I've created this flow in dev, and when I tried to call this coupon name, Flow was telling me earlier, and that's why I got a bit confused, that this input name already exists. So when we went further down and created our coupon record, so if I get rid of this, we can see those inputs that I had already created previously, which is this one, and this is the one that I've since created for this particular flow step by step so that I could explain it to everyone, if that makes sense. So with your inputs, it is available in that same environment, and you will be able to see it in other flows that are referencing the same entity when you're using that when a record is selected CDS action. Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. That was a very good question. Thank you. Okay, so now back to the marketing list. I'm going to update this field to yes and hit save. And it should trigger a flow. Okay, so it's running. And we'll see that it has, again, looped through 3 contact records successfully. And if we have a look, we can see that this coupon name is Automation Saturday. So then when I go to Related and click on Coupons, we can see that those records have been created. Not sure why Sheriff is wanting control. So Sheriff, I'm going to click deny. Because
yeah, the button is really way too big in Teams, really, to request control.
So yeah, I think maybe you were trying to minimize something on your screen or something, and maybe you accidentally selected it. Okay. So back to my slides. For those of you who do want to get on board with Flows and Power Automate, and you're still new to it, or if you want to, increase your knowledge on expressions in Flow, there are 2 courses that are available. Now, you don't have to do this. I'm only recommending this because I've actually done the advanced one, and I actually learned some new stuff from it. So these 2 courses are facilitated by John Levesque, who is I always forget his role. Platform evangelist. That's the one. In the Power Automate team. And Kent Weir is in the Microsoft Paracat team. So he is actually doing a session later today. He leads the team on RPAs and I think bots as well. So they're the 2 behind these courses. You will learn from it because I actually learned something from the advanced one. So if you want to check it out, you can. And then as mentioned, I also have a playlist that helps everyone in the community to learn flows in the context of the Common Data Service or Dynamics 365. I do have some videos that use Microsoft Teams. I even show how you can call your Google Home to play a Spotify playlist from Flick. So there is a bit of random stuff in there, but it's all related to Power Automate. So go ahead and check that out and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, so now I'm going to open the floor to questions. And before I do open the floor to questions, I want you all to know that the next session is presented by John Liu. He's going to show you how to do a public website in 14 minutes. So that's very exciting. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that. Yeah, ask away. Ask away.
Yeah, so thank you, Elaiza. Are there any questions? So yeah, I don't know if people can unmute or put it in the chat. Already someone is thanking for your session. There's a question, are both flows able to be deployed with solution?
Okay, so the flow with the current environment CDS connector that can be deployed because that is supported by solutions. The one that is a standard connector I created outside of a solution, but I don't think there's any problem in adding that existing flow to the solution. The only thing that you would need to be aware of is if your, so let me just head over to flow and explain. If your CDS actions, excluding the winner record is selected because it's going to use the default environment. If it's referencing something like your dev environment, and when you do import it into a target environment, so let's say your UAT or your production environment, you do have to go back and change these. Whereas when you're using the current environment connector, you don't have to do that. And if you were to ask me, okay, so why would I choose the standard connector over the current environment connector? This is applicable to some organizations where they're not using solutions or they don't have separate environments, so they're only using a single environment. In the scenario where you do have multiple environments, which is typical for enterprise organizations where they've got dedicated dev, test, UAT, system test, and production, that's when you would be using the current environment connector rather than the standard connector. Hope that made sense.
Yeah, it does. There was another question from Krishna. How to execute due date email triggers, like if an event is going to happen in the upcoming next 7 days, how to handle that in flows.
For what I demonstrated?
Let's see if there's a response on that. I think that you could easily do this with a trigger and then use the trigger conditions for that, for instance. So if an event is closer than the upcoming 7 days, that would be you could use that for it. So there are no other questions yet. A lot of thank yous. They loved your session, so awesome session. Thanks, Elaiza. Thanks, Elaiza. Awesome session. So really good responses. So are there any other questions? No, I believe that's
questions.
A lot of thank yous. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I guess I got confused about the events one because I was like, if it's 7 days away, and if there is a date, then I suppose your trigger would be your scheduled trigger, and you have a criterion there. Okay, so then otherwise, thank you. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please stick around for the other presenters because we actually really do have amazing content today. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it and followed my random ramblings at times. I'm a bit awkward, as you can see, when it comes to live sessions.
No, that's fun. It's just fun.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
So
my
thanks
screen.
a lot. And to everyone, we are going to take a quick break and we'll be back on the top of the hour with John Liu. So see you in a bit.
Thanks, E.
Oh, was that NT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Your biggest fan.
Oh. Your session will be later. Oh, wow, I didn't notice that. Sorry, I just saw, I've got a cube by me. Oh, wow, cool. David Moss, when Q is good, can you ask it? Thank you, Clifton.
Yeah, it was the question above from Win. It's about 5 questions by 5 blocks up. It says, does the first flow cover with Power Automate?
Oh, Lynn. Okay. Oh, hey, Lynn.
Licensing.
Does the first flow cover Power Automate use rights with Dynamics 365 licenses, or will it require a Power Automate license for all the users who would trigger the flow and generate the coupon? If you have Dynamics 365 licensing, you should be covered by the Power Automate use rights, because as per the licensing model, it has that information in there. So there's like, I think it's on page 28. I know this because I actually looked at this yesterday. That's why I know the exact
page 20. Seriously?
Page 28, Dynamics 365 license guide, January 2020. It's listed on there. Or will it require Power license for all users who would trigger the flow and generate the coupon? Technically, if your users are in Dynamics 365, then they should already be covered for Power Automate. Thanks, David, for checking that. If you have team member, you're not covered. Really? Hang on. It says you are covered if you're a team member. It's definitely on page 28 of January 2020 Dynamics 365 licensing guide. There's two columns. There's one on the left and there's one on the right. Satya, delay until action is one of the options for 7 days. Reminder email. Oh yeah, good point.
Wow,
Samir.
is Satya with us?
I don't think so. Same first name. Okay. Say an entity has 3 business process flows. How do I create a record with a particular business process flow using Power Automate? I think you need to reference the business process flow ID of the one that you want, if that makes sense. Newbie question, please. The first flow you have shown was almost like an on-demand flow, correct? Yes, that is correct. So it's pretty much, an on-demand flow. So when you create this flow from scratch, it'll come up as instant flow. If you are someone who is already familiar with Dynamics 365 classic workflows, it is essentially the same as an on-demand classic workflow. Hello, Chino. David, can I pass text label values from Power Platform to the HTTP request?
Sorry, that should have said Power Apps. I was just working on
Power Apps.
Just working on a Power App. We're going to just use that to put the values of parameters and then connect that to a flow, but pass the parameters into the HTTP request. I assume you can do it, but I just was curious if you know and have a link or a blog post I could look at.
I haven't tried that. Daniel, who do you think would have it? Would someone like Shane have information on that?
I think so,
or Geetha?
Yeah,
or
I
April?
think Shane always have it.
Let me have a look.
So a text label value from a text label
From
from a Power App, and then use a Power Automate flow to trigger an HTTP request.
Yeah, but
yeah, you can do that.
But to take the values from the text labels in the Power App. So basically, just use the Power App as a front end to enter a value.
Yeah.
That then would be passed into the HTTP request.
Yeah, that's possible. So you need to do. You're not able to do that directly. So you need to have the Power Automate workflow in between. So you trigger a Power Automate workflow from Power Apps, and then you just use the text label values as inputs for the Power Apps, the Power Automate workflow. Sorry.
Yeah, if you know a link or somewhere of some post I could read, it'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, I will check if I can see that. It's just the standard Power Apps.
Yeah,
Power Apps
no,
trigger. Yeah,
everything. Yeah, I'm sure it is standard. Just a matter of knowing how to do it. Might be standard for you, but not for us.
Oh, don't worry.
That's why we're on the call to learn.
No. That's
Okay, another question from Satya. When we get this selected record action, this is it, but I don't know. I mean, I wonder if it's on the Power Automate ideas side. I know where you're coming from. It's not available today, and we are at the mercy of the product team, as you all know. So let's see if it's in there. Because, yeah, it would be nice. I would love to have it in there. So looks like someone has already requested it as an idea. Okay. So everyone. I'm sorry, Samir, what was the question that you had originally asked? Oh, that was about the business process flows? You could come off mute if you want to have a chat. No? Shy? Okay. So, Samir had a question earlier about business process flows. So his question was, say an entity has 3 business process flows. How do I create a record with a particular BPF using Power Automate? So if you want to create a record with your business process flow, it will have an ID. So if you want to have a record created, then you would need to reference the business process flow ID, unless I'm fully understanding the question, which is why I've invited you to go off mute and have a chat with us if you want. Yes, that's correct. So Milan has said business process flows are another table. Oh, hello, Narayan. I didn't realize Narayan was helping out with the streaming. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt, for joining us. Hope you can tune in later or watch the recordings later. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Bye. Sending emails by Automate. Can you advise any good software as a service that runs good in delivery and services? Can you elaborate a bit further, Frank? Frank, if you're there, can you explain a bit further? Or do you have the option to go off mute and have a chat with us? Hello. Oh, I can't.
Hello, here's Frank. It's about Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Hi, here's Frank. It's about a community portal where we want to use influencer to be our marketing or sales engine. And in that case, we don't want to use our marketing stack. Click to mention it should be happened on a different email provider or service delivery engine, like, I don't know, sending grid or whatever more are there on market.
Well, usually when I get, questions that are similar to this, it's if that product or that platform or that application that you want to do automation with has, APIs available, then I don't think it would be too much of an issue. If they don't have an API available, then we do have UI flows, and Daniel is an upcoming expert on UI flows. He's laughing right now, which will allow you to do some automation if that application or platform or system doesn't have a connector API. Sorry, an API.
Okay, that's so far good answer for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.